What in the world is TeachBack?
TeachBack is a way to confirm what your patient understands of what you've explained. It's a great tool that will not only help reduce our readmissions and improve our patient's experience, it improves our patient's comprehension.
I just don't understand. I don't have time to do TeachBack, and furthermore, what would I get out of it? Plus, I feel like I would be quizzing my patients and putting them on the spot.
I know. I felt that way too when I first started hearing about TeachBack, but I started to find phrases that worked for me, and now it feels authentic. I could actually see it help my patients and found that it helps to reduce the calls I receive after I've left the room.
Hey, you two, what are you talking about?
We just had this meeting about TeachBack.
TeachBack? What's that?
TeachBack is really a best practice that enables us as providers to learn from the patient what they understood by asking them to repeat back what they heard us say.
Oh, sure. I do that with my patients. As a nurse, I think it's my job to make sure I explain things well, so I'll say, I know we covered a lot of information. Can you tell me what you heard? Or I'll ask them a question like, when you get home, how many times a day are you going to take your medication? And just make up questions to be sure they understand. If they go home and don't understand how or when to take their medications, they could end up back in the hospital, and who wants that?
So do you just use TeachBack at discharge?
It's very useful during discharge, but I also use TeachBack when I'm doing any kind of education, or for sure when I'm sharing a new diagnosis. I've also used it when I see patients in the clinic too. It helps to make sure they know what the plan and the next steps are from the visit.
Yeah, I use it during their visit after I have reviewed the plan of care and what's coming next.
That's interesting.
Morning, Kevin. Have you thought any more about that TeachBack we were talking about?
No, but even if I wanted to incorporate this, I feel funny. It feels forced.
Let's try. Come with me to Mrs. Smith's room. I'm going in to discuss her discharge instructions, and you can see how I try to incorporate TeachBack. Knock, knock. Hi, Mrs. Smith. It's Dr. Gray again. I have Dr. Campbell with me as well. Would it be okay if he joined us today?
Yes, that would be all right with me.
Great, thank you. Well, Mrs. Smith, you're doing much better now, so we're ready to send you home. But it's really important that you make an appointment to see your primary care doctor, Dr. Johnson, within the next 5 days. If your symptoms get worse between now and then, we want you to come back in right away so we can check you out. It's also really important that you take your medication as prescribed. 2 pills, 3 times a day with food. Mrs. Smith, I know we've covered a lot, and I want to be sure I explained everything to you clearly. Can you tell me what you're going to do when you get home? When will you go to see Dr. Johnson?
I'm going to contact my doctor if I'm not feeling better in the next 5 days.
I'm sorry, I must not have explained it all very clearly. What I actually want you to do is to call Dr. Johnson, your primary doctor, and make an appointment to see him, regardless of how you're feeling, within the next 5 days.
Oh, I see. You want me to call my doctor even if I'm not feeling bad. I should still plan to follow up with Dr. Johnson in the next 5 days.
Yeah, that's right, you've got it. Now let's see, what questions do you have for me?
I guess that made a difference. She actually didn't understand.
Yeah, sometimes it's the small details that can make a big difference in how the patient does after they've left the hospital. It's always best when we can clarify those details in person before they go home. A few moments of TeachBack in the moment can help ensure patients receive the right follow-up and can save time in the long run. What do you think about TeachBack now?
I think I want to give it a try. I'd hate for my patients to be missing key details in their care. I guess I don't really know what my patients are taking away from my explanations and instructions, and I won't find out unless I ask them.